Hi, everyone. I guess we're going to get going now. I noticed our guest speaker has arrived. We're going to have a full house today, so we'll probably be people coming in throughout the presentation. So I believe most of you know me. My name is Deb Albert, and I'm the lead instructor here at OzeScribe Career College. And today I have the privilege of welcoming our guest speaker, Mr. Brett Cooper from OzeScribe. So we're going to start off just giving a little bit of a background about Brett. Then he will begin talking, and once his presentation's over, he will answer some questions for you. So we will keep everyone muted, but when the question period comes, please type your questions in the box, and I'll read them out for Brett. So Brett works for iMedix Australia, OzeScribe. He is currently the Client Implementation and Support Manager. He first started with OzeScribe in 2014 after graduating from a medical transcription course. Brett was immediately hired on as a typist, and that is something he still loves today. After some time with the company, Brett spoke with the operations manager about some changes he thought would help the company, and he was then transitioned into an advisory role and was able to help OzeScribe improve its systems. Today, Brett is involved in recruiting and support, among other things, with OzeScribe. He's here today to answer your questions about the medical transcription healthcare documentation industry, as well as answer any questions you might have about OzeScribe and how to best set yourself up to be hired by OzeScribe. So welcome, Brett, and the floor is all yours. As soon as I get my mouse to work, I will unmute Brett.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to join in one of these webinars again. It's a fantastic opportunity to be able to speak to, in this case, current students and, as has been previously done, potential students to sort of to answer some questions that I'm sure a lot of you have, and just to sort of give you all sort of a bit of an insight into the medical transcription industry, which is, if you're anything like me, it was when I first heard about the course that I did, I'd never heard about medical transcription, and I was a bit wary actually whether it was actually a genuine course and a genuine field that you can work in. But rest assured, it's very much legitimate, and it's a very, very big industry. So I'm here today to hopefully answer any questions that you may have regarding that. Is Justin here or,
Yes,
at the moment, or?
Yes, Justin's also here with us, Brett.
Okay then.
I am here. Yes.
Hi, Justin. Did you want me to talk a bit more, or do you want to? How did you want to structure this webinar?
Yeah, we'll kind of run it the same. If you have any questions, feel free to type them into the chat box. I'll start everyone off. Can you just tell us a little bit more about OzeScribe and the company itself, and if there's any issues, I guess, hiring Canadian graduates?
Yeah, okay. So look, there's OzeScribe is the largest transcription provider in Australia. Most of our clients are, or most of the work we do is for the hospitals and medium to large clinics. So basically how the industry works in Australia is that a specialist, when they see a patient, is required by law to send correspondence back to the referring doctor or back to the GP regarding that patient, and it needs to be done within a certain time frame, which I believe is the documentation needs to be received back within 2 weeks. So that's where we come in. Doctors are very time poor, so the simplicity of for them to be able to dictate a letter and then us type it and they review it and then send it is a great productivity boost for the doctors. So basically they'll dictate an audio file which into do it via several methods. They can do it via a dial-in on a telephone, or in a dictaphone, the old-fashioned dictaphone, or otherwise they can use there's an app on a smartphone that they can use. So basically that audio file gets dictated by the doctor. We receive that. A medical transcriptionist will then download the audio file, type the letter out, send it back. The doctor will see his completed letter on the screen, complete with the header and everything like that. He'll approve the letter or make any other changes that he needs to. And then when he completes that, it's printed, or it can be sent electronically too. And then the recipient can receive the letter. So that's basically how the system works in Australia here. As I said earlier, it's actually required by law that documentation is sent by a specialist back to the GP or the referring doctor. So as far as hiring Canadian graduates, OzeScribe are currently looking to hire Australian, Canadian and US graduates. This is because the US and Canada have very similar privacy laws to Australia. So this means that in the example of CanScribe, it's a great win for us, because it's a fantastic course and it gives you all the tools that you need to be able to become a typist. And it's also where Canada and the States and Australia are very similar, although we have grammatical differences. We have very similar grammar structure, so it makes it very easy for Canadian and US graduates to transition to the what we call the British English dictionary. Does that sort of answer the question, Justin?
It answers my question perfectly.
Great. We have another question, Brett, from a student named Allison, and she wants to know, what is the hiring process?
Okay, Alison, so basically what the process is you contact OzeScribe. You can do that via the website or the email there on the screen. You send your resume there. We require that you complete an online test, which is compared to what you're doing in CanScribe is probably very very basic. It's not a difficult test. If you're a CanScribe graduate, you'll find it very, very basic. There's no complex. We're not out there to trick you or anything like that. Rest assured that if you've passed the CanScribe course, you'll have no problem with it. Then, as usually is the case with CanScribe applicants, I don't think any CanScribe applicants who have applied to OzeScribe have been rejected. So then once you've successfully done the entrance test, you are then hired as an intern, where you are paid an intern rate, and then that is generally for about the intern process goes for about up to 2 weeks. Look, depending on how competent you are as a typist, it can go on for a bit more. Or even up as few as 5 or 6 days for some applicants. What happens then is you become a junior MT, and that you generally stay as a junior for about a month, 3 weeks to a month, and then after that you become a senior MT, where you can send files direct to a client.
Awesome, thanks, Brent. We have another question from Victoria, who wants to know if you have voice recognition files.
We do have voice recognition files. So we have some MTs who work as editors, and so that's with a voice recognition file, and some MTs who work with full typing. So you generally will find that you'll be doing both. We don't have really many typists who say they just want to do voice recognition or just typing, and our the work we get means that some MTs will be sort of predominantly typing, but one of the things I'd probably like to stress is if you can, the more flexible you can become as an MT, then the greater the chance that you will always have work. You'll find that around holiday periods, especially Christmas time, there'll be a lot of doctors who go away. If you're comfortable as an editor, and if you're comfortable as a typist as well, and again comfortable across all specialties, it's a good way of cementing work for yourself during those times. Certainly, if you concentrate on just editing and only on a specialty that you like, you'll probably find that you'll be typing files quicker at the start. But what the downside to that is if that work dries up for any reason, you'll find it difficult, or your team leader will probably not have any work for you at that time. So one of the things I always suggest is that when you're first starting out, tackle as many difficult files as you can. Difficult to understand dictators, things which you really don't like doing. Make a conscious effort to actually apply yourself and practice on that, because once you have the skills to do difficult dictators and a range of specialties, you'll find that you will never be short of work.
Thank you, Brett. Kaylee has a question, and she's asking, are transcriptionists paid a salary or by the hour for their skills?
Yeah, no, so we pay a line rate. So it's based on a 64 character line, and we pay that rate to the transcriptionist. So at the end of the day, if you can become a proficient typist and have a good ear to hear the dictation, you can that will increase your productivity.
Rosalind has a question, and do companies usually look at school marks when hiring? Meaning, if you have high grades, are you given priority?
No. So look, if you're a CanScribe graduate, we're happy with the fact that you've passed your CanScribe course, and we won't prioritise depending on what your grade with CanScribe is. We at the moment we are actively recruiting, and we actually need a lot of typists. So we're not at the stage, and I can't see any time in the next 12 months to 2 years. I can't see any time coming when we're going to be actually picky about who we what your CanScribe course mark is. Look, when we see a graduate from a CanScribe course, we're pretty confident that they will be a good typist. And like I said, no one's ever been rejected from our training test after they've done the CanScribe course. So I hope that answers your question.
Great. Tanya has a question. Is the hiring process the same for experienced transcriptionists?
It is. So they're still required to submit the resume and do the online induction test there. It's for experienced transcriptionists. We occasionally will look at hiring them if they've had a certain number of years of transcription experience but haven't done a course. But on the whole, we find that those sort of transcriptionists don't work out to be the best in the end. We've had great success with our CanScribe graduates, and so look, if you've done the CanScribe course and you have experience as well, that's fantastic. But you could come from having no experience, do the CanScribe course, and that's the base. That'll give you a great base to build your skills on.
Thank you. Okay, we have another question from Victoria. Do you hire part-time? If so, what hours, or is it line-based?
Yeah, that's right. So It's line based, so we require that you do a minimum of 1,000 lines per month, which is not much at all. Depending on how quick you type, it can be, that could be as little as a day or two a week. I would probably suggest, if you're just starting out and you don't want to, you don't put much time into it, you'll find it a lot harder to learn all the required protocol that we require for when you're typing a letter, and you'll probably it'll take a lot longer to pick up a lot of the skills, because obviously if you're only doing it 1 or 2 days a week for a couple of hours, by the time you do it again next week, you will have forgotten a lot of the things you've learned. So one of the things I'd probably suggest is that when you're starting out, put as much time into it as possible, and you'll find that you'll really excel quickly then. But having said that, look, if you make a good effort of it, and when you're during the intern and junior stages, if you make notes about your errors and things like that, you'll find that you'll pick up things pretty quickly. But at the end of the day, we don't require you to be online for full-time hours or anything like that. 1,000 lines a week, you should be able to easily do that in over a few hours a week. And we're happy if you do sort of 2 or 3 hours over 2 days a week, just as long as you complete those 1,000 lines.
Thank you. Yep. Rosalind's asking, how many transcriptions are transcriptionists expected to do per day, and how long are the dictations usually?
Yeah, okay, good question. We don't require the typist to do any set amount of transcriptions per day. We require transcriptionists to make a pledge at the start of the month. So if you're doing your 1,000 lines for the month, you could say, I'm going to be working Mondays from 3 p.m. till 7 p.m. So that's 4 days a week, each Monday of the month. And then basically, as long as you complete the required amount of lines in that time to get up to your how much you pledged, then we're happy with that. So for example, if you were saying, I'm going to do 1,000 lines this month, I'm going to break that down to 250 lines on each Monday. It might be that you do a few large files, so type a few large files, which makes up 250 lines. It may also be that you do 6 or 7 smaller files. So just as long as you stick to what the amount of lines that you pledge, we don't sort of really look at how many files you've done. Files can be anywhere from a minute for a quick 1 or 2 sentences dictated by the doctor, up to, we have some medico-legal clients who dictate letters that can be up to 30 minutes in length. So it's on average, you're probably looking at about 5 minutes, 4 or 5 minutes per file. But those 1 minute and 30 minutes are the extremes on each end of that.
Okay. Jennifer has a question. Do you pay in Canadian funds? Is it by check or direct deposit?
Yeah, so we pay in Australian dollars, and basically we use an international bank, which then converts it to Canadian dollars and deposits it into the bank account. So every line, all our line rates are calculated in Australian dollars, and then a third party bank will deposit it into your account in Canadian dollars.
Perfect. I think that answers Debbie's question as well. Debbie asked, how is the pay structured between Australia and Canada? So I'd say you just answered her question. Rita's asking, how are errors calculated?
Okay, so errors are calculated when you are in the intern phase and the junior phase. We have someone who checks 100% of your work. So it's probably very similar to the way that errors are calculated in your CanScribe files. But basically, we have someone who goes through and manually marks each of your files for errors, and we give you feedback also on that. So if you've typed something wrong, let's say you're in the intern phase and you've made a complete mess of a file, we'll actually give you really constructive feedback to sort of bring to your attention what the errors were and where you can look to, what resources you can look at to make sure you don't make that error again. But just sort of just understand that in the intern and junior stages, we understand that you're not familiar with all our protocols, so don't worry, you don't have to come in and start typing, beautiful files that are getting sent to the doctor. We actually work with you a lot to bring to your attention when you've made errors and what the correct word or correct phrase should have been. And build on it from there. You'll find it's a really good system that really helps you develop as a typist. We also have we all use Skype. We have Skype groups and we have email groups. So if, for example, you're typing a file and you're just starting out and you're completely lost, you can actually get onto a Skype group or the email group and say, hey guys, I'm doing this file for this doctor and he's said this. Do I need to type that, or what do I do? So you're not left alone there. We've got really great resources to sort of help you develop as a typist.
Awesome. Audrey's asking, does a 64-character line include spaces?
I believe it does include spaces. I believe spaces are counted. So when it includes spaces, a paragraph break is included, is calculated as one space, I think. But yes, it does include spaces.
Great. Amber's asking, are the work hours flexible for us to work any time of the day, or is there a required time to be working?
No, so look, we're happy if you, I mentioned before that you're required to make a pledge at the start of the month. Basically, it's just logging the hours that you're going to be working for that month in the calendar. So look, you might have a busy schedule with the kids that month. You can actually pledge what hours you're going to be working on what days. You might say, for this week, I'm going to be working only 2 hours on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, but next week I'm going to be doing 7 days a week from 7 p.m. till 10 p.m. or something like that. So it's completely flexible. When you're an intern and a junior, so when you're just starting out, we put you with someone who we call a mentor. So basically, when you're just starting out, you'll have one person who is assigned to you, and you'll be able to contact them to ask any questions, and they'll be able to answer your questions straight away. What we suggest is that during that stage, that you try, if possible, to be able to be online at the same time as your mentor. We try to make the mentor in the same time zone as you. So we try and, for the Canadian typists, we try and make sure we have a Canadian mentor that'll be working at the same time as you are. But just sort of understand that if we, for any reason, if we can't assign you a Canadian mentor, then during the intern stage especially, you might have to log in during Australian business hours to work with an Australian-based mentor. But after that, after you've finished your intern stage, you're welcome to work night, day, it doesn't really matter.
Okay, I think you already answered this, but Benita's asking, do you require a minimum hours per week commitment?
Yeah, no, so exactly, not minimum hours. It's just as long as you stick to your pledge of lines. So you can do, if you pledge at the start of the month 1,000 lines and you say, look, I'm going to do it all on one day, then look, we're happy with that. or you can break it up into 10 days, whatever suits you. But the only minimum is the 1,000 lines per month.
Okay, Allison wants to know, does OzeScribe provide a word expander, and do you provide a practicum?
Okay, we don't provide a word expander. We have some links to some good word expanders. There are some that are free, and there are some that a lot of typists will buy because they have really good functionality. I think you'll find the ones that they pay for, they're not very expensive, but when you look at what productivity boost it gives you, they're actually really well worth it. If you're sort of going into this to be doing it as a home-based business, then I think you really have to look at those sort of things. Spending $100, or I think for the more expensive ones, they can even be a couple of hundred. When you see what you can do with the functionality of some of them, you can really increase your productivity by a difference of between 5 and 10% between if you're using a poor quality text expander versus one of the better ones. The better ones really have some great functionality. I was just going to say before, I think I can see a couple of questions coming up about line rates. Can I just go grab the most current rates just to be able to answer those questions? Can I pop away for 30 seconds?
Sure.
Great, thanks.
While he's doing that, I'd like to highlight something else as well. With your course, you're provided a word expander with Phrase Express. And if you do actually want to purchase their word expander, you do get 30% off because you're a CanScribe graduate. So if you are looking into that, just give us a call or a quick email, and we can give you the discount code for that as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin.
Sorry about that. Okay. What we're up to then? Can we keep the questions about the line rates to closer to the end, just so I can load the? I've got the iPad here, so
Sure.
I just want to load the most current rates.
Okay. Victoria is asking, what is a transcribing platform that you use?
Okay, yeah, so we use the MDAT platform. So the MDAT InScribe is the name of the typing platform, but MDAT is the platform that we use, which encompasses dictation from the doctors, typing, and right through to delivery. But the actual typing program or platform is called MDAT InScribe. We have great resources for training you to use the InScribe program too. It's not an overly complex program. It's quite simple. It's easy to get started on, and there's actually training files for InScribe where similar to a practicum, and I think that was part of the last question. Sorry that I forgot to answer, but part of doing your intern stage is training files in InScribe. So it's basically non-live files that we give you the chance to go through, and there's actually voice coaching, telling you about all the different functions of the program and how to get familiar with it.
Awesome. Okay, this is a question about pay, but not exactly, Brett. Jennifer is asking, how does the way you pay per line compare to pay per minute? She currently works for a company that pays per the minute, but has been offered a job and was confused by the different methods of payment.
Okay then. Look, I wouldn't be able to sort of compare the per line to per minute. I don't have any experience with per minute rates. Unfortunately, I'm sort of a bit stuck with that question.
Okay, I actually have done both, Brett. I can help you with that if you'd like.
Okay, then.
I've actually transcribed both by line and per minute, and
hmm
it's very, very similar. Very similar. I transcribed for two companies at the same time, one paid by the line and one paid by the minute.
Yep.
And the pays worked out to almost identical amounts.
Okay then.
A couple of these questions are already answered. If you got paid in US dollars. If hired, can the transcriptionist be on your platform anywhere in the world?
Yes, yes, they can. Look, the platform, the great flexibility of the platform is that you can log in securely anywhere. But yes, you can be anywhere in the world working. It doesn't matter if you've passed the CanScribe course and you've successfully done our intern and that you can work from anywhere in the world.
Awesome. Nicole is asking, would the account specifics be very different from the teaching platform at CanScribe? Would sample letters be available on hiring?
Okay, that's a good question. Look, I think you'll find that account specifics will be very similar. We tend to try to place typists with the one account so they can get used to the specifics. We have some accounts with fairly complex account specifics, but at the end of the day, it's not overly complex in that they're saying leave 2 spaces after my second paragraph or something, so a really something that will trick you. It's more for certain doctors. They use certain templates and things like that. But you'll find that if you've even with our most complex account specifics, once you've been typing them for if you've typed them for 2 or 3 days, they're very, very quick to get used to. I think one of the concerns I remember having when I was doing the course is what will the actual account specifics be once I start typing? And it's like, for instance, you do the practicums in your course, and there's different examples of account specifics, but it's pretty much how it works when you're typing actual files too. There are some accounts that say, look, just type as dictated, and there are some that have different workflows which use different documents and things like that. But I think if you're comfortable in the CanScribe course and you're understanding everything and you're going through the course as CanScribe suggests, and you pass the course, once you begin working as a typist, there's not going to be any tricks or surprises or things that you just go, oh, wow, this is way harder than I thought. You'll find that the courses really give you all the tools that you need to become a typist. And look, once you get to actual typing, you'll probably say it'll probably be a lot easier than in the actual course.
Awesome. Gwen is asking, do you ever get a raise in pay as you get more experienced?
So basically, once you've completed the intern and junior stages and you become a senior typist where you can send direct to the client, you're given a pay rate then. I'll just read out the rates to you while we're here. So our interns, that's when you're starting off, and I said it can be anywhere from 5 days to 14 days as an intern, and that's when you have a mentor assigned to you. So the line rate for interns is 5 cents per line. After you've done your intern stage, you become a junior. Junior is generally between 2 and 4 weeks, and they're paid 6 cents a line. And then once you junior is paid 9 cents per line, and once you become graduate from a junior and you become a senior typist, that's when you can send files direct to the client. We pay you 13.5 cents per line. Now this is all Australian dollars. So once you become a senior, the rates don't increase then. The only the way to sort of to make more as a typist from there on is things like I spoke about earlier. Increase your ability to be able to type over different specialties, over different clients, and I think really just pushing yourself from your comfort zone. One thing I found when I first started off, I used to really enjoy doing neurology and neurosurgery files, and I thought, well, you know, it's after a few weeks you find it really easy, and you understand a lot of the terminology, and you think, oh, look, I'm just going to concentrate on this and see if I can just do these specific specialties. But one of the things you have to keep a conscious effort about is trying new specialties, trying new dictators, and when you do that, you're going to find your productivity really drops when you first do them. When you first do a difficult dictator with gastro files, for example, you might find that your productivity drops by, you know, as much as 50% for the first day when you're on the new specialty, but that'll pick up, and once you've got those two specialties under your belt, you'll find that your chances of being allocated work by your team leader are greatly enhanced. And I think it's a really important thing to make sure you're flexible as a typist.
Okay, well, Lee is asking a question. I believe it's the same as the one you already answered. Do you allow your typists to work from anywhere in the world?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're a CanScribe graduate, and if you're the Canadian, if you're either Canadian or US, we're happy for you to work from anywhere in the world. There's no restriction on that. We don't check where you log in or anything like that. We require you to sign a confidentiality contract at the start, which just basically means that you're not going to be using any of the information in the letters that you type and printing it or saving it to your computer. But aside from that, we're happy if you can, if you would like to work from anywhere in the world. I mean, it's a perfect business if you're someone who likes traveling or moving to a different country. It's a fantastic sort of role to allow you to do that.
Benita's asking, do you have a confidentiality agreement to sign, and is there an option for liability insurance?
Yeah, so we that's what I was just mentioning then. We have a confidentiality agreement and a contract which is signed, which basically says that you're only going to be using the information that you hear, patient details, etc., within the typing system, within the MDAT InScribe typing platform, and that you're not going to be using or storing any of that information externally. It also covers things like who has access to your computer screen when you're working. So we sort of require that you are sitting somewhere where people walking past won't be able to see your screen and see information on the screen. As far as liability, we don't. There's no option for liability, because at the end of the day, you type a letter and return it to the doctor, and the doctor is required to review that letter. And once he reviews that letter and signs off on it, he has basically said that he is liable for that letter. So there's no danger of incorrect information on that letter being distributed and you being liable. It's completely in the doctor's hands. Our typists, none of our typists have liability insurance for that reason, because there's no onus on the medical transcriptionist.
Wendy's asking, what is the operating system needed?
Okay, operating system needed is Windows from, I believe, 7 and above. I don't believe our the MDAT InScribe program will work on a Mac. So we require just any of the Windows operating systems from 7 and upwards.
Awesome. Tina's asking, can you work more than 1,000 lines per month?
Oh, we have no limit on the amount of work you can do. At the moment, we have a backlog. We're constantly signing new hospital departments, and we need a lot of typists quickly. We have no restriction on how many lines you can type. You are welcome if you want to work 14-hour days, 7 days a week for the month, and type an insane amount of files. We're happy for you to do that. The only thing we do is monitor quality. So, for example, we have a certain percentage of everyone's files have quality assurance done on them. Look, if you're a CanScribe graduate, your quality will generally be fantastic. So all that we ask is that if you're a quick typist, you make sure that the letters you're typing are of a good quality, and there's, at the end of the day, there's no limit to how much work you want to do.
Okay, Kathy's asking, how many blanks per report are allowed? Is there a penalty in the pay structure if there are more than is acceptable?
Yep, that's a really good question. We don't have a set limit on blanks. You'll find that there will be certain difficult dictators who are, rustling papers or mumbling when they're dictating, and these sort of things are all acceptable blanks. We actually encourage typists to put in blanks when you're not sure. If you're sort of not 100% sure that that's the word that the doctor said, we actually encourage you to mark a blank. You're not penalised whenever you mark a blank. If you're producing an excessive amount of blanks just to speed up your typing, obviously that's something that that we'd sort of talk to you about. But again, look, if you're a CanScribe graduate and you're dealing with all the practicums that you're doing there, and you're passing the tests, look, you'll find that it's okay. We require that at the end of the day, that anything that we're not sure of, we send it back to the doctor with a blank there and a comment saying, can you please check this word? There was, background noise at the time, and we're not sure what it was. But you'll find that, that you won't be marking any other, any excessive blanks for other things like that. It's pretty similar to the audio files that you'll be doing in your CanScribe course, as far as what you can hear, etc. Yeah, on the subject of blanks, it's we don't limit you to a certain number.
Perfect. Okay, Rosalind has a question. Says, can you give us a few reasons why CanScribe graduates should choose to apply to OzeScribe versus a Canadian company?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Look, I'm not sure of the competition in Canada and the transcription companies over there, but one thing I've always said about OzeScribe, it's a fantastic community. We have a lot of typists, but we have fantastic resources, and we have a fantastic community-based atmosphere to work for. So, for example, you will be assigned part of a team. We break up all our typists into smaller teams. Each of those teams has a team leader, and you'll find that the community sort of atmosphere within those teams is fantastic. We have group emails that you can chat to each other with. There's a group Skype chat which is on 24 hours a day. And also the support that you get from head office if there's any problems. They're really great people to work for. I really noticed that from day one. The team leaders are all really nice people, really friendly. They're actually really helpful. I was just reading one of the emails from one of the team leaders yesterday to help one of the typists with regard to resources and links and things like that, and things on the internet. They'll go out of their way to provide you with information on how to improve yourself. If you make an error, they'll say, look, here's a fantastic resource, for example, looking up doctors at a certain hospital or things like that. And we also have a really large website which is called MT Help, which is a great resource which covers all different topics, and you'll have things like account specifics, formatting of different words. So the website is huge. It covers other things like interns. We've got help videos for the junior typists. We've got another set of videos, and then there's videos to help you with associates or recipients. We've got words, common spelling differences for words, and which is the preferred way. So all of our the people who work for us are really helpful, and our online resources are really helpful too. So I think that's the biggest sort of selling point for OzeScribe, is the fact that we really help you and nurture you through the whole intern to senior process.
I'd like to just jump in really quickly and kind of add on top of that. Just speaking from CanScribe's point of view, working with OzeScribe, it's fairly new relationship, but it's been working so well because, kind of like what Brett said, it's almost like a family over there, and it's a big company and everything like that. But they're so supportive. Brett's pretty much 12 hours ahead of our time right now, and we've never have any trouble communicating with each other at all. Really easy to talk to, dealing with everyone at the company, and as well, they pay quite well in the industry. We're finding that they're very much on the high side of the pay. So those are kind of two extra things I'd like to add in, as well as why OzeScribe is just a great company overall and a great company to work for as well.
Thanks, Justin.
Yep.
For anybody that doesn't know, Justin is the operations manager here at CanScribe. And I wanted to add, too, that I actually do transcribing on the side for a Canadian company that actually pays quite well. And as an experienced MT, I've been doing this now for over 14 years. I'm still getting paid 11 cents a line. So 13.5 cents a line is a very good pay. And if you were getting paid by the minute, that would work out to approximately $1.35 a minute. So that's really good pay. So Jennifer has a question for you, Brett. Can you do more lines than you pledged?
That's a really good question. Generally, yes. I think the protocol is that if you've pledged a set amount of lines, that you have to ask your team leader, can you do extra? So I think you actually have to ask, but I've never heard of anyone who's been refused lines. We've got just a crazy, it's a hectic work schedule on at the moment. We've just got a lot of files that need typing. So we sort of actually recommend that you pledge a bit less than you think you'll do, because then you can always say, look, I'm going to do more. Can you do that? Rather than pledge a large amount and then not do it. We don't really want you doing that. So yeah, sure. If you pledge that you're going to be doing 500 lines for the day, and you get through it all quickly, and you find that you have a lot of time up your sleeve and you're not tired, absolutely speak to your team leader and say, look, can I just keep typing? And I almost guarantee 99% of the time they'll just say, hey, yep, keep typing. We've got heaps of files here. I've never heard of anyone who's had to finish work because there wasn't any files to type.
Jennifer is asking, do you have an editing program that we would use?
Sorry, the audio dropped out. A what program?
Editing.
Okay, then. Editing in what sense? Is in the...
That would be speech recognition or your voice recognition.
Okay, then. So the speech recognition, it's what we call back-end speech recognition. So I'll sort of just explain to you a bit how it works. So when a doctor dictates an audio file, if it's not using the speech engine, the typist will just hear the audio file and type that out. Any of our files which do use speech recognition, basically the audio file for the doctor goes through that speech engine, and then as the typist, you'll receive the text as the speech engine created it. So it'll be, you know, you'll get your odd things here that the speech engine thought that the doctor was trying to add to the letter or something like that. But it's from a typing perspective, it's exactly the same program, and it displays in the same window. It's just as if it's pre-populated with text when you use the speech engine, and then you go ahead and edit that and lay it all out correctly.
Any of our students who have reached the speech recognition chapter or the psychiatry chapter are using the MDAT platform to do that in, and that's where they are doing the editing. So anybody that is doing that now has the experience in doing that already.
Oh, fantastic! Look, I mean, that's just awesome when you can be doing that in the course. If you're doing that in the course, once you sort of step into OzeScribe, you'll find things so much easier. You'll be able to, during your intern stage, you'll be able to type real clients. You'll already know the InScribe platform, and you'll find that the time spent in intern and junior are just, you know, really dramatically reduced because you've already had experience with it. That's a fantastic thing to be able to do.
Yeah. Okay, Nicole, I believe this question's already answered, but I will ask it again anyway. Are you hired as an employee or as a contractor?
Yep. So as a typist, you're hired as a contractor. Thus the rate per line. So basically, as a contractor, that allows you to be flexible. You're saying, I'm going to do a set amount of work, you know, 5,000, 10,000 lines, whatever you'd like, and then you don't have to tell us when you'll, you know, what hours or how many hours per week you'll be working. You just have to say, I'm going to be doing 250 lines each day on a Monday from 7 p.m. till 10 p.m. And then, you know, that's all the information we need. But yeah, you're hired as a contractor.
Great. Okay, Amber's asking, what is a word expander, and is there one that you would recommend over others?
Okay, a word expander basically stores text or sentences or words and lets you create them as shortcuts. For instance, you might assign the keystrokes CHM, and it automatically will expand to chemotherapy. There's no limit to how many words or, you know, or what you can put in a text expander. One of the great examples I like to use was there are a number of doctors I can remember typing for who would always say the same introduction. They would always have the same layout. They would have a very similar sign-off paragraph, and you can set all these things up in your text expander. So you'll find that with some doctors, you can enter 10 keystrokes and you can have 2 paragraphs laid out there. So these sort of things are great productivity boosters. As far as one I would recommend, I believe the most commonly used one is it Instant Text? Is that the?
There is one that's called Instant Text.
Yeah, look, I think that's the one that I've seen most of our typists use, just for its flexibility and its you know, what you can do with it, how you can have a floating floating menu bar at the bottom of the screen that shows all the instant text keys and things like that. So hope that answers that question.
Yeah, there are a large number of different ones you can use. I know if you're interested, you can contact any instructors in the instructional team, and we can give you some ideas of some of the ones that we use as well. There are a large number of them out there, word expanders. We're running out of time right now. We only have 4 minutes left, so I'm just going to pick a few more questions so we don't run out of time. So Anna's asking, do most of your clients have Australian accents, or are they multilingual ESLs?
Yeah, look, there's a really good mix at the moment. Probably, I'd say yes. Most of them have Australian accents, but there are a lot of dictators from the States. There are a lot of Indian doctors. So there's actually a really good mix. But just on the whole, most of them do have Australian accents. Which, look, probably if you're doing audio files in CanScribe, they've probably got American accents, I'd say, or Canadian. But you probably find that when you do first start out typing and listening to the Australian accents, there are certain things that you find it a bit difficult with. But look, it'll probably 2 days at the most, and you'll probably be getting used to the difference in the accent.
Okay. Kim is asking if the rate of pay is the same for voice recognition as it is for straight typing.
Okay, yeah, no, that's a really good question. So for our senior typists, we pay a different rate for voice recognition and straight typing. So voice recognition is 8 cents per line, and as I said before, typing is 13.5 cents a line. So just because of the improved productivity when you're doing voice recognition files, that's why the rate is 8 cents a line. You'll find that we find that most of the typists generally will make more doing voice recognition on an average. Sometimes you might get some that are slow, that voice recognition files that need a lot of editing, so it slows you down a bit. But generally, on the whole, the typists make more on voice recognition files, even though the pay rate is less per line.
Okay, I guess we have time just for one more. There are a lot of them here that unfortunately we can't get to today, but Brett will be joining us again. So if you don't get your question answered today, you can always come back and he can answer it another time. So let's go for the last one. Could a student of CanScribe who has not graduated apply before graduation, or do you prefer that we wait?
Look, we probably prefer that you wait until you graduate. If you're close to graduating, look, feel free to contact us on that careers email there and just tell us where you are in the course. How much, how long you have to go. But yeah, look, as a whole, we'd probably prefer that you graduated first, and I think it's probably good to do the whole course first, and then have the confidence to concentrate fully on typing, as opposed to starting typing and then doing the course at the same time. You'll find that you're probably concentrating on too many things. So, but there's no hard and fast rule that we have there. That's sort of just my opinion regarding that.
Awesome. Okay, well, we are out of time. Everybody should be able to see on the screen that there's an email address, or actually 2 email addresses if you wish to apply. And thanks very much, Brett. It was really informative today. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. Anything else you want to add, Brett, before we sign off?
No, I just wanted to say thank you very much. And yeah, look, if like you've said, if there are any other questions that we haven't answered, I'll be on the next webinar. So join then, and we can answer those questions. But look, feel free to, once you've graduated, or even before that, contact us via those email addresses then, and thanks very much for everyone's time today. It's been great. I really enjoy answering the questions in these webinars.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Brett, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks again.
Okay, bye, everyone.